Awareness of Breathing, or the Anapanasati Sutta. You can find it on page 14. And before we begin, just take a minute to think about what the breath means in our meditation, as well as in our daily life, because that is what this chant is asking us to call awareness to or consciousness to. Bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, the method of the full awareness of breathing, if developed and practiced continuously, will bring great rewards and advantages. It will lead to success in practicing the 4 establishments of mindfulness and the 7 factors of awakening, which will give rise to understanding and liberation. One practice as follows. The first breath. Breathing in a long breath. I know that I am breathing in a long breath. Breathing out a long breath. I know that I am breathing out a long breath. The second breath. Breathing in a short breath. I know that I am breathing in a short breath. Breathing out a short breath. I know that I am breathing out a short breath. These 2 breaths enable you to cut through forgetfulness and unnecessary thinking, at the same time giving rise to mindfulness, enabling you to encounter life in the present moment. Forgetfulness is the abundance of mindfulness. Breathing with awareness enables us to return to ourselves and to life. The third breath. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I am aware of my whole body. This breath enables you to contemplate the body and be in direct contact with your own body. Awareness of the whole body and awareness of every part of the body allows you to see the wondrous present of your body and in the process of birth and death unfolding in your body. The fourth breath. I am breathing in and making my whole body calm and at peace. I am breathing out and making my whole body calm and at peace. This breath helps you realize calmness and peace in the body and arrive at a state in which mind, body, and breath are one harmonious whole. The fifth breath. I am breathing in and feeling joyful. I am breathing out and feeling joyful. The sixth breath. I am breathing in and feeling happy. I am breathing out and feeling happy. With these 2 breaths, you cross into the domain of feelings. These 2 breaths create peace and joy that can nourish mind and body. Thanks to the cessation of dispersion and forgetfulness, you return to yourself, aware of the present moment. Happiness and joy arise within you. You dwell in the wonders of life, able to taste the peace and joy mindfulness brings. Thanks to this encounter with the wonders of life, You are able to transform neutral feelings into pleasant feelings. These 2 breaths thus lead to pleasant feelings. The 7th breath. I am breathing in and aware of the activities of the mind in me. I am breathing out and aware of the activities of the mind in me. The 8th breath. I am breathing in and making activities of the mind in me calm and at peace. I am breathing out and making the activities of the mind in me calm and at peace. These 2 breaths enable you to look deeply at all the feelings arising within you, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and enable you to make those feelings calm and at peace. The activities of the mind means, in this case, the feelings. When you are aware of your feelings and can see deeply into their roots and nature, you can control them and make them calm and at peace, even though they may be unpleasant thoughts which arise from desire, anger, and jealousy. The 9th breath. I am breathing in and am aware of my mind. I am breathing out and aware of my mind. The 10th breath. I am breathing in and am making my mind happy and at peace. I am breathing out and making my mind happy and at peace. The 11th breath. I am breathing in and concentrating my mind. I am breathing out and concentrating my mind. The 12th breath. I am breathing in and liberating my mind. I am breathing out and liberating my mind. With these 4 breaths, you pass into the 3rd domain, which is mind. The 9th breath enables you to recognize all the states of the mind, such as perceptions, thinking, discrimination, happiness, sadness, and doubt. You recognize and observe these states in order to see deeply into the mind's activities. When the mind's activities are observed and recognized, you are able to concentrate your mind, making it quiet and at peace. This is brought about by the 10th and 11th breaths. The 12th breath enables you to release all obstacles of the mind. Thanks to illuminating your mind, you can see the roots of all mental formations and thus overcome all obstacles. The 13th breath. I am breathing in and observing the impermanent nature of all Dharma. I am breathing out and observing the impermanent nature of all Dharma. The 14th breath. I am breathing in and observing the fading of all Dharma. I am breathing out and observing the fading of all Dharma. The 15th breath. I am breathing in and contemplating liberation. I am breathing out and contemplating liberation. The 16th breath. I am breathing in and contemplating letting go. I am breathing out and contemplating letting go. With these 4 breaths, the practitioner passes into the domain of the objects of the mind and concentrates the mind in order to observe the true nature of all Dharma. First is the observation of the impermanent nature of all Dharmas. Because all Dharmas are impermanent, they all must fade. When you clearly understand the impermanent and fading nature of all Dharmas, you are no longer bound by the endless cycle of birth and death. Thanks to that, you can let go and attain liberation. Letting go does not mean disdaining or running away from life. Letting go means letting go of craving and clinging so that you do not suffer from the endless cycle of birth and death to which all dharmas are subject. Once you let go and attain liberation, you can live in peace and joy in the very midst of life. There is no longer anything which you can bind you. So taught the Buddha how to observe deeply the body, feelings, mind, and objects of the mind through 16 methods of conscious breathing. He also applied the 16 exercises to practice the 7 factors of awakening, which are full attention, investigating Dharma, energy, joy, ease, concentration, and letting go. You may return to noble silence. At this time, I would like to invite up our incense lighters. And if you'd like to turn to page 2 to chant the incense lighting gatha with us. And together we say, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. we bow. Good morning, everyone. So good to see you. I know a lot of people are out of town because of holiday stuff. But hopefully you're tuning in online and getting your weekly dose of Dharma. So just a few reminders to start the service. If you have small children, you're welcome to use the downstairs area. There's a water fountain down there, as well as some cups. I think there's plenty of space, so I don't think we have to worry about seating. Just a reminder to not walk across the front of the dais for the sake of the camera. Bathrooms are just over there. And when you're chanting this morning, use this as an opportunity to think of it like you're singing Christmas carols when you were in your preschool holiday show. Okay, like really enjoy it. You know, go back to what it was like to have that one kid in the class that was singing erratically and just completely enjoying themselves as you chant today. So let's go ahead and stand up and greet each other with some bows. All right, and in your chant books on page 3. We are going to chant the 3 refuges together. Again, I really want to hear those 5-year-old singing voices. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning, and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be freed from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And on the next page, we have the Heart Sutra. A few words just on this sutra. It is a wisdom sutra. So the idea is that this is the guidance to apply to our life when we are not in this temple. Okay? So as you chant it, really pull it into your heart, bring out that 5-year-old, and let's hear this Christmas carol. Dhamma Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of prajna paramita perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight. No realm of consciousness. No ignorance. No extinction of ignorance. No old age and death. Nor extinction of them. No suffering. No cause of suffering. No cease from suffering. No path to lead out of suffering. No knowledge. No attainment. No realization. For there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all delusive views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna paramita is the great Dharani, the radiant fearless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Dhamma Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra.
If you have a prostration practice, you are welcome to join me in this. If you don't worry, we can just take a seat. Prostrations are a demonstration of humility to our teachers. Um, and this is something that, as a teacher, as a Dharma teacher, before I get up and teach, it's my way of honoring the Buddha, the one who brought these teachings, the one who has managed to create something memorable enough for people to want to keep sharing it, which essentially is a message of love. So these prostrations are in honor of that love. I will do 3, and then once I'm done and seated, you are welcome to do 3.
Okay, I get to say it again. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. I feel like I've been kind of MIA throughout the fall, which is lines pretty well with my MO. As a dance teacher, the fall is an Irish dancing teacher. The fall is one of the busiest times for us. Over Thanksgiving break is our regional championships where dancers qualify to go to nationals and the world championships. So it's kind of a big deal for us. And the fall just tends to take a lot of my energy and attention, especially on evenings and weekdays, because that's the only time that students really can dance because they're usually in school. So my schedule matches their schedule. So it's good to be back. It's good to see everybody. And today I'm going to be talking about the Charles Dickens classic story of A Christmas Carol in alignment with the I'm going to butcher this, Dvedhavitakka Sutta, which is in the Majjhima Nikaya. It's number 19, and it's also known as the 2 kinds of thoughts. And I'll start with a quote from that sutta. Whatever a bhikkhu frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. Now, when I was a kid, I grew up in Northern California. My class used to go and see a stage performance of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And it was a super cool thing to do because we got to do it every single year. The show is still running in the Bay Area at the Leisure Center for the Arts in downtown Walnut Creek. And it was always kind of a cool experience, number 1, because I loved acting. And number 2, because the stage effects were super neat. They always had the fog machine going whenever Marley came in and whenever the Ghost of Christmas Future came in. However, you might be familiar with more of the classic Muppets Christmas Carol, which is also one of my favorites. Or maybe you have seen the 2019 animation, the recent animation that was done with Jim Carrey, which aligns a little bit more with the book itself. And then there's also a BBC series called A Christmas Carol. It's about Scrooge's life, but it's a little bit more of a darker drama. Really good, and gives you a lot of insights into why he has habituated the behaviors that he did, the ones that we notice in the beginning of the story. And, what we might see with Scrooge at first glance is like kind of unrelatable, because we're like, how could somebody's heart get so hard? It seems a little far-fetched, a little out of reach to think that somebody could just completely disregard what it means to be human. And it feels a little out of touch for us, you know? But I think that's where we start to also have the opportunity to think about, well, where does that happen in our lives? Now, Scrooge himself, you can see that he suffers greatly from the three poisons: greed, anger, and misunderstanding. Although some people have heard that translated as ignorance. Ignorance, I think, can be a word that is misunderstood sometimes. Misunderstanding meaning that we don't always understand how reality operates. Where is it coming from? How are we perceiving it? Usually it's in a mistaken point of view. Now, for Scrooge, logic was his ammunition for proving that there's no lasting happiness. And for there to be a holiday like Christmas, the epitome of joy, that was just one big fat lie. For him, it was like not possible. Why are we doing this? This is like we're all just dancing around and, trying to honor this thing that doesn't really exist. And he was a hardcore logician in a way, but he was also a mistaken logician. And you can see this when he uses this logic to attempt to reason with why he was seeing one of his past partner, Jacob Marley. He's like, you must be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more gravy than grave about you, whatever you are. He can't believe it. He couldn't believe that his mind would offer this kind of delusionary thinking, because he was so grounded in logic based off of his habitual behaviors. And so how often are we also guilty of using our outer circumstances to justify our experience? Well, I'm having a bad day because my partner didn't clean the house or do the dishes. It's their fault, right? If they had just cleaned the house, maybe I'd be in a better mood. It's just one example. I may be speaking from experience. And it might be relatable. If that guy didn't cut me off in traffic, I wouldn't have been late for work. If only the red light had gone faster. Maybe if I hadn't hit so many. How often do we blame our outside world for our circumstances? So it's a little interesting to think about, but his story continues on in this stark observation of how his habitual behavior and thinking and reaction to others, we see that develop in the way that the three spirits show him his life. In the Christmas past, he's faced with being alone, being left alone at boarding school on Christmas. His family doesn't come to pick him up. He's abandoned there with his teacher who has to stay there with him. No wonder he's not like a fan of Christmas, And then another Christmas past, his partner, the person that he had fallen in love with at Fezziwig's party, leaves him. She's like, you are so wrapped up in logic. You're so afraid of love and being a human that I can't be with you anymore. Here, another abandonment for him. So can you blame him for feeling so awful about Christmas, for not liking it, other than the sense that he's using that as a reason to dictate his behavior? Oh, well, Christmas sucks because I'm always abandoned on Christmas. He's decided to make his reality permanent, as if it cannot change. And so his fears continually separate him from this reality where love and compassion is possible. And this is his permanent, his solution in his mind of this is how I'm going to permanently solve not having to deal with pain, is just cut it all off. Don't even engage in happiness, because once it's gone, I'll be sad. Right? It's kind of like this addiction to suffering in a way. If I don't experience happiness, I won't have to suffer. Even though if you don't have happiness, what are you left with? And so even Scrooge's subconscious mind is aware that the clock is ticking. You will die at some point. Everybody does. Death is inescapable. And so his life could be lived this way, but I think there's a part of him that doesn't want it to be lived that way. And even as miserly as he appears, there's this piece of him that admits that living a life free of suffering is possible. It's the same thing that the Buddha saw when he had the realization of the four Arya truths, or noble truths, as many know them. And we see that Scrooge was also convinced that money was the only thing that could provide security. Love can't provide security, not at all, just money. And he was convinced that everything outside of him was the real obstacle to help. And so up until this point, he refuses to see where his world is really coming from. It's his own mind, and it's his own projections. And so we watch as Scrooge goes through the process of renunciation. And that is the first of the 5 paths as taught in the Tibetan tradition. The first thing you have to realize is that, wow, this sucks. I don't want to feel like this anymore. My whole life has been lived hiding from fear and pain. And I don't have to be like that anymore. It doesn't have to be that way. Change is possible. And so when he wakes up after having this whole emotional roller coaster of an experience with the ghost of Christmas future, who's like pointing at a gravestone, like, look, you're going to die on Christmas, dude. And he's like waking up being like, oh my God, am I dead? He realizes that he still has time. I mean, what a beautiful realization. I still have time. I still have time to remove suffering from my life. And that's what the Buddha teaches. We still have time, but the clock's ticking because death is inevitable. This body will die. But this consciousness, as taught in the Tibetan tradition, continues. But it's not what we think it is. That is where our misunderstanding lies. But here, Scrooge says, I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all 3 shall strive within me. O Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody and a Happy New Year to all the world. And in that statement, Scrooge makes a commitment to mindfulness, a promise to live fully in the present while learning from his past, striving to create this better future, not just for himself, but for all beings. And so what I think about this story and why it's so classic is that it's a mirror for our own lives. Are there parts of us that are subconsciously clinging to these habits or behaviors that cause us suffering? Are we weighed down by anger or greed? And how often do we live with the misunderstanding of where our experience of the world really comes from? And so renunciation doesn't require dramatic, ghostly visitations, but it begins in our small mindful moments. And as the Buddha reminds us in the Dvedhavitakka Sutta, if one frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of greed, anger, and misunderstanding, then one's mind will incline towards those thoughts and behaviors. And in the sutta on the 2 kinds of thoughts, Lord Buddha talks about a distinction made in his thought patterns leading up to his enlightenment. And this sutta is him talking about a situation before, when he was still considered a bodhisattva, before he even became a Buddha. And he categorized his thoughts in 2 ways. He said, okay, either I've got positive thoughts or I've got negative thoughts. I have thoughts of renunciation, love, and compassion, or I have thoughts of greed, mental affliction, and ignorance. Depending on which one you choose results in wisdom. And so he's giving this teaching to the bhikkhus And he reflected on how his negative habit mind, one that contained the three poisons, would lead to the suffering in the three spheres. And the three spheres is a teaching on understanding the reality of a situation. So you have an object, a subject, and the situation itself. And so we look at the suffering within yourself, the suffering that's caused in another person because of your actions, and then the suffering as a whole. Okay. Now, what's also taught about the three spheres is that those three things are empty of an inherent existence. They are not what we think they have to be or what we think they are. We might think, oh, you're permanently always going to hate me. And so therefore, I'm permanently always going to react in this way. Right? When we have that misunderstanding often, I have to behave in this certain way because that's what's expected of me. But that's what the emptiness of the three spheres teaches, is that it doesn't have to be that way. We have emptiness of all three: object, subject, and situation. And so what it's giving us is this opportunity to notice that when we are caught in that negativity, you are moving your mind further away from wisdom and closer to experiences of being stuck in this place called samsara. And just the same, when we apply consciousness to our seemingly permanent negative behaviors, that one habit that just won't go away. For me, it's continuously watching how I speak to my children. We come to notice that we have this ability that we can change how we respond, which means that things are not permanent. It is the very teaching of karma and emptiness. And so this holiday season, even when your family might behave in the same way they always have, in a way that might trigger you or push your buttons, see if you can notice the love that is underneath all of that. Because the love doesn't come from them. It comes from you. And that's the misunderstanding. We often think our world is happening outside of us. It's not. It's from here. It's from here. It's our projections that are creating this world. And so a great saying, you might all know it, that you might want to take with you when you're in those really annoying family situations is, sticks and stones can break my bones, but it's really easy to forget that we are the operators of our mind and our reality. And in no way am I saying that this excuses the behavior of others, because it doesn't. But it does mean that we have an opportunity to choose how we respond. And the Buddha taught skillful means, right? So meaning that the way that we respond to others matters too. Just because we think they need to hear something doesn't mean they're going to hear it. So is it really worth saying it if it's just going to create more suffering, even if you think it's right? Got to ask those questions. Sometimes just smiling and nodding is the best way to go. Even you got to bite that tongue. Been there too. So things are changeable. They don't have to remain the same. And so in my preparation for the holidays, I really work on trying to watch my mind and how I'm going to interact with others. I'm going to skip some of this. So a few words of wisdom, right? So when you're in those moments, it's really tough. You can be saying, sticks and stones can break my bones and words will never hurt me. But first thing to do is to just connect with the suffering. Recognize that it's there. It doesn't mean ignore it. It just means acknowledge it. Okay. It doesn't have to be hidden, but it also doesn't have to be acted upon. It can just be there with you. And if we can see, even with intelligent regret, how our actions have created suffering in others, we can start to break free of that cycle of suffering. Number 2, reflect on interdependence. Being generous with others brings happiness. We sometimes want to make giving conditional, but this duality is what creates resentment. As your head hits the pillow at night, Take a moment to reflect and rejoice in the generosity and goodness that you witness during your day. It's a good practice to do every day. It's something my teacher is always reminding us to do. And no matter how small, you know, if you saw somebody hold the door open for somebody else, if you saw two people laughing, I really love it when little kids are making faces at their parents at the grocery store and their parents have no idea that it's happening. That's my favorite. Or even what I love about Michigan, and you never see this in California, and I really thought it was weird when my mom used to do it as a kid. She'd wave to people in traffic and nobody else would wave back. And I was like, this is really weird. And then when I started driving, I'd wave like, oh, I'm going to wave you in, or thanks for letting me in, you know, and nobody would wave back. And I never saw anybody wave until I moved to Michigan. I was like, oh, there's the wave. People, they're acknowledging one another. Oh my goodness. So while that may seem like a common thing for you, it is not where I come from. But just notice the joy in selfless acts of humanity. Bring that to your rejoicing at night as your head hits the pillow. Because the idea here is that we're trying to retrain our mind to see the world differently, because it's from us that this world is created. Okay, and that takes a little, I'm not ready to open that box, but someday maybe. Now, lastly, practice gratitude and generosity. Give in any way you can, even if it's just giving time to a neighbor, talking to them, asking them how their day went. I really love giving baked goods, and there's some pumpkin chocolate chip muffins downstairs if you'd like any after. Or maybe call someone that you haven't spoken to recently, a parent, a friend, you know, anybody that you may have lost touch with. Doesn't matter how long, 2 years, 3 years. Pick up the phone, text them, give them a call, see how they're doing. And I think lastly, the Buddha would remind us to honor ourselves and our capacity to serve. This whole experiment, our whole practice, is not meant to be an experience of spiritual self-flagellation. Rather, it's meant to be creative with our own path. If your capacity isn't there yet, and you've pushed it, and you're like, all right, I got to pull back, I'm not there yet. That's part of the testing, okay? It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to wake up tomorrow, lay yourself down as a martyr and die, okay? That's not what this practice is. It's really meant to notice where we can stretch our capacity and also honor those who are working and stretching their capacity with you as well. We all need patience, okay? And it's not that we need the patience, but when somebody else gives us that patience, that is a gift of itself in itself. So anyway, our offering is to fall in love with the world and to see joy in unexpected places. And in a sense, it's to become the Christmas carol of our own lives. And so with that, I'm going to invite you to a guided meditation where we will take this into contemplation. And just reviewing at this point, stretch, clear your throat, get the gunk out, make the noises. Bring your leg back to life. And to review the 8-point posture, allowing the legs to relax, the hands to be in a comfortable position. The spine should be straight, vertebrae stacked one on top of the other. Eyes either gazing down just past the nose or closed. The shoulders are relaxed, sinking down the back. The mouth should be slightly open with the tongue resting at the back of the teeth. Head balanced on the top of that spine, just shifted back, chin shifted back ever so slightly. And then bringing your awareness to your breath. And continue that body scan, just starting at the feet and working your way up towards the head. And notice where you can release any areas of tension. And allow that tension to melt away with the breath. If you have any adjustments to make to your posture, now would be the time to do it. The idea is to park the body so we're not distracted by it. And begin by considering emptiness itself. And that means that things don't exist in a fixed or independent way. Things depend on causes, conditions, and our own perceptions. Even when we might perceive another as trying to harm us or create grief, notice where that perception is coming from. Buddha taught that beings are the owners of their actions, heirs to their actions, born of their actions, related to their actions, supported by their actions. And whatever actions, which includes thoughts, that we do, whether they're positive or negative, we will inherit that karma. Take a moment to reflect on how actions create effects in the world, as we see in the story of Scrooge, such as his greed causing suffering for others and for himself. And allow the mind to begin to shift towards the emptiness of the three spheres, the lack of a fixed, independent Scrooge that cannot change, the lack of a fixed result of his life that is unchangeable, and the lack of a fixed outcome to his life. Recognize that his transformation is possible precisely because of emptiness, because things are empty of an inherent self-existence. Notice how understanding emptiness, understanding that change is possible, makes skillful action and generosity meaningful and transformative. And now, take a moment to reflect on how you can use this teaching when you are experiencing your own challenging moments this holiday. Identify a moment that will likely arise, triggered by a comment from a family member, frustration that things don't go as planned, maybe annoyance with someone. And just imagine it happening, and then rather than falling into that same habitual response, open your mind to the possibility of change and visualize how you can respond in a loving way. And collect your awareness at your heart center, where we are going to close this meditation with a short dedication. And if you could wrap up this goodness that your mind has cultivated as a gift, and if you were able to give it to one person, someone like Scrooge who desperately needs a shot of compassion and wisdom, who would that be? And imagine it as light pouring from your heart directly into theirs. And watch as it fills them up from the soles of their feet to the top of their head, removing all mental afflictions and negativities with everything that it touches, to leave them refreshed and completely filled with love. Gently bring some movement back into your toes and into your fingers. And when you're ready, come on out. All right. Welcome back, guys. It's a fun little journey. So we have about 15 minutes left, and I did want to offer the opportunity for like a question and answer moment before we get into joys and concerns. So if there's anything that came up for you from that talk, or maybe a little bit of clarity on a teaching or definition of emptiness and karma, whatever it is, love to just kind of give you guys the floor today, even if it had nothing to do with this talk and there's something that's like been on your mind, and maybe I can answer it or Kunga can answer it. Love to hear your questions. If you have one, yeah, raise your hand.
that probably works better. Oh yeah. You talked about in the Tibetan tradition how the body dies and the consciousness continues on in some different way. Can you talk just a little bit more about that consciousness continuing on versus the death of the body?
Yeah, I will do my best, because this is one of my highlights of my study, but it's one of those questions that you feel like you get close and then it slips away from your hands. Because I think the Buddha taught no self, which can be a difficult concept to grasp because we're living in these bodies and this is the experience that we have directly. And when we think of quantum physics, for example, right, you've got physical matter, you have energy, and you have particles, which are kind of like a mixture between the two. And I think some of that is very close to what the way the Tibetans would explain it, because you can't measure consciousness. The Dalai Lama has tried, and he's still trying. He's like, I'm going to figure this out. And so when we think of these imprints of causes and conditions, right, that arise from actions that we can see in something like an apple seed being planted in the ground. And if the right conditions are there, it turns into a sprout, which turns into a tree, which produces apple fruit, which produces apple seeds, right? And I think the hardest part is that we want to get so caught on the idea of a self somewhere in there. Well, there's an apple tree, there's something there. But that doesn't mean that the apple tree doesn't continue, right? We see that in the seed coming to the fruit, going to the seed, going to the fruit. It's just from my experience and from what I've been taught is that until you're a Buddha, you will not understand what that means exactly. And so I don't know if that answers your question, because I know it doesn't answer it for me. But through my understanding, that's the best way to go about it, is just continue to observe how that is happening. Because we often, if you look at the Heart Sutra, right? No ear, eye, nose, body, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness. What is it that we continue to try to grab to? And that's part of the faith part in Buddhism. I think that because it's such an out there concept that even science can't explain. And, Dalai Lama is always like, science, let's get together. If you can prove me wrong, then let's have a conversation. But science has yet to do so. There's a great documentary called Tukdam. It's available on Amazon Prime, I think, for a small amount. And that's a study on the dying process of highly skilled meditators, and observing what is happening in their bodies and consciousness. It's an incredible documentary. And I would check that out, because it touches on that idea of what the bardo is and how the body is interacting with that, how the mind and body interact in that moment of separation. So yeah, the bardo is another, another area of study. Tukdam, Tukdam, Tukdam. And if you go back and watch this video, you'll hear me say Tukdam again. Tukdam, Tukdam. So happy studying. Kunga, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Okay. I would have done the same thing.
I'm just going back to the sticks and stones things, because of course I was raised listening to that constantly, and I take exception to it, because although I've never been physically hurt by anyone ever, but I can go back to some things said to me, and I do think that words can really ruin a person, humiliate them.
Mm-hmm.
Make them feel less than, certainly incite anger. So the word thing, and I've been guilty of it. I know I have. And so thank you for that, reminding me that words can destroy.
They can, but remember, the power of whether or not they do destroy is within us.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's that knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
And I can go back 100 years ago when I was in college and a professor said something to me, and it's like yesterday. I can remember it.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
Anybody else?
Okay. Then let's seamlessly transform into joys and concerns. Let me be the first to wish you all a really happy holiday, whatever it is that you're celebrating. I know I have a Christmas tree in my house. But even though I practice the philosophy that the Buddha taught, I do my best to integrate that into all the teachings that I really think that this holiday season represents. So joyfully wishing you all a happy holiday. Oh, and I'm recovered from strep, so that's a plus.
Hi, everyone. Yesterday, my sweetie and I brought our cat, Joey, to the vet where I work and said goodbye. And I'm very, very grateful for my coworkers, and the doctor who did it is not a doctor that I've actually ever brought my pets to. And no particular reason, just I haven't. And everybody, the way the whole thing went was as peaceful as it could have possibly been. My ex contacted me yesterday, and the cat that we adopted about a decade ago was also euthanized yesterday. And yesterday, I don't know, like this is just like maybe a little ironic to me, but yesterday was also Yule. And I know that the solstices are an appropriate time to contemplate life and death, but also yesterday was the darkest day of the year. And after yesterday, there's growing light. And I'm thinking about that literally and metaphorically, what that could mean. And just it's a really hard time right now. This cat in our house, we had a few cats. We have 2 left, and this is the second cat we've lost this year. But she had a very large presence in our household, and it's very quiet and sad without her. But I'm really hoping that we can transition gracefully during this time to the new normal in our home. And that goes for a lot of other people I know are experiencing loss right now. And this time of year can be hard, but it's hopefully slowly looking up from here with the returning light and the returning warmth.
There is a medicine Buddha ceremony that Sravasti Abbey in Washington does virtually, usually every month, where they honor those who have passed, or situations where it's the 49 days spent in the bardo, and they offer prayers. So something to consider joining. And if you want that information, happy to pass that along to you.
Thank you. Good morning. I have a joy and concern today. First, my joy is that I've been coming here for a few months. I'm up the road at Guiding Light. I've been recovering from an opiate addiction. It's been 5 months, and the meditation that I've gotten, all the support, it's really been helpful. So I wanted to express my gratitude to the Buddhist temple, and thank you all for teaching me how to meditate. But my concern is that one of our brothers in recovery up there, his name's Paris, his brother passed away in a car accident yesterday, and seeing the pain in his eyes, his brother was only 28. And I just wanted to put that out there so he could be in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
I want to share a concern. One of my nephews, he's just 10 years old, and in the last couple of months, the family found out he has leukemia. So he just got a port put in last week, and he's going to start chemotherapy, I think, in the new year after the holidays. So it's just a real difficult time. He's just a little kid. He really doesn't know what's going forward. I imagine he has a lot of fear about that. For my joy, my one daughter is home from college for the holidays, and my older daughter is going to be coming home Christmas Eve. So it'll be nice to see them both for the holidays and have the week off. So that's nice too. Thank you.
It's still on. Gosh, I hate microphones. I have joy and concern. For me, my joy right now is just being here. It was a beautiful talk, and it was just perfect for me today. I have been Buddhist for quite some time, but have not been part of a group for a very long time. My son asked to come today, which is what brought me here. So I'm grateful to him for his curiosity, because this has been good for me. My concern is I just have some chronic health stuff that's coming back. And your talk was really good today, because a lot of it is perception. And I will go away and work with that the best I can. Thank you.
Do we have any online? All right. Let's take a moment to hold those joys and concerns in your heart, and to, I think, remember most of all that outside of these temple walls, you will see the same thing reflected back. And so it's an opportunity and an invitation to practice bodhicitta, compassion and wisdom, with all beings. And we bow. We're not done yet. All right. We do have one more thing, our closing gathas. So let's go ahead and, announcements. Those are kind of important. Mostly because we're off for the next 2 weeks. So we won't have Sunday service this next Sunday, the 29th. And we also will not have service on January the 5th. However, we do have a twilight service on Friday, December 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. I'll be guiding a fire puja, or a sojong purification ceremony. Anybody go last year? Yeah, it's kind of fun. We do flowers and light things on fire. If you're into that. And I do encourage people to bring their own flowers or anything that you'd like to have be a part of the ceremony. I take the ashes from the fire, and I have those on my altar for the entire year. And I bring them back, and I will bring them back on Friday, those from last year, and I will release them into the wind. So they're gone. It's like, we're done. We don't have to carry this with us anymore. But it gives you an opportunity to kind of set your year up for what's something you'd like to purify, something that you'd like to train out of your habitual response, like Scrooge and his miserliness, right? And what's something that you'd like to cultivate or amplify? How do you want to approach the world in a way that you can really become that bodhisattva ideal? So please join us on Friday, December 27th from 6 to 8. And if you would like to also bring a treat to share, we'll do like kind of a little gathering afterwards. So Sunday service will resume on January 12th. We also will be offering the Bodhisattva Precepts, which meets the first Saturday of each month. And it does start on January 4th. Okay. And it will run through August 3rd, and it starts at 7:45 a.m. through noon, and it meets here at the temple. Please contact Kunga for more information. We are also offering this was kind of a last minute thing that we managed to squeeze together. Thankfully, the board was very gracious with my timing, because my timing has just been really not so good this past fall. But I'm offering a 5-week online introduction, or an online meditation group with an introduction to the 7-limb practice. It's a type of visualization meditation that is generally taught as your kind of go-to practice in the Tibetan lineage, especially the Gelugpa lineage that I study in, as that lineage focuses a lot on visualizations. And if you're interested, it's $10 a class. But if you're like, I don't have the means to pay for that right now, please just reach out to me. This is not meant to be a barrier for anybody to participate. Like, please come and meditate with us so you can learn this incredibly transformative practice. Just contact me for more information. We have a winter silent retreat on Saturday, January 25th from 9 to 4. Meets at the temple. Contact Kunga. We have a Wednesday online meditation group that meets from 6 to 6:45. There's no meetings on Christmas or on New Year's. But contact Kunga if you'd be interested in joining that. We have a Thursday Dharma discussion group. Meets at the temple. That's yours. That's your one. That's Ryan's group. Igye Su meets on Thursdays, not on the 26th or the 2nd, but then I think you're back to regular programming, 9:30 to 11 a.m. If you're interested in that Dharma discussion group, please don't hesitate to reach out to Igye Su. There's an Avatamsaka study group, and that's every other Thursday. The next meeting is January 9th. It's from 7 to 9 p.m., and it's online. And you can contact Will Allington or Upasaka John Westerick, who's running tech, for more information. And lastly, we have our Buddhist-based recovery meetings on Mondays, 6:30 p.m. meditation begins, 7 p.m. meditation or meeting meets at the temple. Wednesdays at the Alano Club at 6:30. Fridays, 10:05 a.m. meditation begins, 10:30 a.m. the meeting begins, and that is at the temple or join via Zoom. You can contact Yongsu or Jue Su for more information. Whew, I think I covered it all. All right, let's stand up and chant some gathas. And together we say, for all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddha's teachings to the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to enter. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. And with that side of the room, we'll face this side of the room, and we bow. Just a last reminder to please return your cushions and chairs and things to the way that you found them. If you can align them so they're nice and 90 degrees with everybody else, that would be great. And let's get our chant books put away. Thanks all. All I heard is